You ever stop and think about that little gap? The one between clicking buy now and that package magically appearing on your doorstep? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what I like to call the invisible engine of our economy. We're diving deep into the hidden science that powers our world, the modern warehouse. I mean, it kind of feels like magic, right? You tap a screen and poof, there it is. But here's the thing. This everyday miracle, it's not magic at all. It's actually this incredibly complex, high-speed dance of logistics, science, and engineering. So the real question is, how does it all actually work? Okay, so the first thing you got to get out of your head is this image of a dusty, old-school warehouse. Like a giant attic where things just sit around collecting dust. That's not what we're talking about. The modern facility is a distribution center. Think of it as a dynamic hub, a place of constant motion designed for one single purpose: getting stuff out the door as fast as humanly and, robotically possible. All right, so to really get how they work, we've got to back up a step and ask an even more basic question. Why do we even need these places? I mean, why not just have everything shipped directly from the factory to the store or straight to your house? Well, the answer comes down to one word: efficiency. So take a look at this. On the left, you've got what is basically a logistical nightmare. Every single vendor shipping to every single store. It's a tangled web of routes, an expensive mess of half-empty trucks crisscrossing the country. But now, look at the right. You pop a distribution center in the middle, and all that chaos just simplifies. Instead of countless little trips, you have a few big, full, efficient ones. This is the core idea of consolidation, and it's the fundamental reason these places save everybody a ton of time and money. Okay, before we go any further inside one of these places, we need to learn a little bit of the lingo. Just one key term: SKU. It stands for Stock Keeping Unit. A SKU is basically the smallest individual thing the system tracks. So think of a specific flavor of soda, or a size medium blue t-shirt, or even a single tiny spare part for an airplane. Each one is a unique SKU. And a big distribution center, it can be juggling hundreds of thousands of these different SKUs at once. It's wild. There's this great analogy that I love. Think of the whole supply chain as a giant pipeline. The products are like water or some other fluid moving through it. In this picture, the warehouse is like a storage tank along that pipeline. But here's the crucial part. The goal is not storage. It's all about flow. You want to keep that fluid moving. The faster the product flows through the whole system, the less inventory you have just sitting around, and that, my friends, saves a tremendous amount of money. So, if the main goal is constant motion, how on earth do you organize literally millions of items to make that happen? This is where the science gets really, really cool. Storing all this stuff isn't random at all. It's a super carefully optimized process, and it has a name: slotting. And some of it seems like common sense, but it's absolutely crucial. Take the golden zone. This is the area on the shelves right between a worker's waist and shoulders. The heaviest and most popular items, they all go right there. It's such a simple idea, but it makes picking way faster, a whole lot safer, and just less exhausting for people. It's a perfect marriage of ergonomics and economics. But the strategies get even smarter than that. For instance, they might use family grouping, putting all the hair care products together. Why? It's not for the warehouse worker, it's to make life easier for the person at the final retail store who has to stock the shelves. Or they'll use affinity, placing things that are often bought together, like pasta and tomato sauce, right next to each other. Less walking for the picker. And of course, for the small, super valuable stuff like smartphones, that gets grouped in a high-security controlled access area. You see, it's all about thinking about the entire supply chain, not just what happens inside these four walls. So how does the system actually decide what goes where? Who gets that prime real estate in the golden zone? Well, you can actually think of it like a nonstop auction. The SKUs themselves are, in a way, constantly bidding against each other for the best spots on the shelf. The system is always calculating the economic benefit of each item, based on how popular it is, its size, its weight, and the most valuable shelf space goes to the highest bidder. It's this silent, invisible 24/7 auction that's constantly optimizing the entire warehouse. All right, so everything is stored in the smartest way possible. Now comes the hard part: getting it off the shelf. This is called order picking, and you have to understand this single activity accounts for the majority of all labor costs in a warehouse. It is a literal nonstop race against the clock. So let's look at two totally different ways to organize this race. First, you have zone picking. This is your classic assembly line. A worker stays put in their one section, they pick what they need to, and they pass the order bin along to the next zone. Simple. But then there are bucket brigades. This is totally different. It's a self-organizing system where workers aren't stuck in one zone. They can follow an order into the next person's area and just hand it off wherever they happen to meet up. It's way more flexible, way more dynamic. And here's where it gets wild. This is the truly mind-blowing part about bucket brigades. To make the whole line move as fast as humanly possible, you do something that sounds completely backwards. You put your slowest worker at the very beginning of the line and your fastest worker at the very end. I know, it sounds crazy, right? But what this does is it lets the system balance itself out perfectly. It prevents bottlenecks because the faster workers down the line are always ready to take on more work from the person behind them. It's genius. And look, this isn't just some neat theory. This is real-world results. One warehouse literally just switched from zone picking to a bucket brigade system, and their productivity jumped by over 30%. 30%. That is a massive gain, just from changing the way people move around a building. Incredible. But of course, what's the absolute fastest way to pick an item? Well, it's to have a human not move at all. And for the most popular, fastest-moving items, that's where automation comes in. Take a look at this A-frame dispenser. You can pretty much think of it as a giant, super fast vending machine for the warehouse. It just automatically drops the most popular SKUs onto a conveyor belt and whoosh, they're off to be packed. Okay, but all these principles of efficiency, they don't exist in a vacuum, right? A warehouse is always a direct response to its local environment. So let's zoom out a bit and see how these systems adapt to totally different economic realities all around the world. So here in North America, labor is pretty expensive, so it makes a ton of sense to invest big money in automation to make every worker more productive. But then you go to a place like India, where capital, money for big machines, is expensive, but labor is much more affordable. Well, the most efficient solution there looks completely different, with a lot more manual work. And here's the key takeaway. Neither one of these is better or more advanced than the other. Both are perfectly and brilliantly optimized for their specific local economic conditions. And if you want to see the most extreme example of this adaptation, just look at Singapore. Land there is unbelievably expensive. So what do you do when you can't build out? You build up. These are multi-story warehouses, but get this. They have these gigantic spiral ramps that allow full-sized semi-trucks to drive all the way up to loading docks on every single floor. It is an absolutely incredible piece of engineering, and it was born out of pure economic necessity. So what all of this really shows us is that a warehouse, it's not just a box for storing stuff. It's a living, breathing system. It's a piece of technology in its own right, one that is perfectly tuned and shaped by the local costs of labor, capital, and land. It's basically the physical answer to a really complex economic equation. So, the next time you click that buy button, maybe take a second to think about the incredible chain of scientific and economic decisions that just fired up that invisible engine. And as we keep pushing the limits, from next-day delivery to same-day, and now even to 2-hour delivery, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What new science, what completely new systems are they going to have to invent next to make it all happen?